Hey guys, I'm learning TFT and I'm sharing my learnings with you so you can learn and I can learn more effectively as well. In this video, I'm going to share with you a coaching session where I coached a viewer, Zantonse, who was gracious enough to be willing to have me share this video with you. And this was the first time I've coached this specific viewer. And we talked about kind of what his goals were. And specifically, I was also asking him like what maybe is getting in the way of him improving, and he identified that commitment was actually a thing, which I actually talked about as a meta mindset in one of my more recent videos. And what I'm a executive coach for startup founders as well, and from my experience as a coach, I found that the way that you look at any one thing actually translates a lot to how you look at like life and many things, which is why I do the meta mindset, right? And what he shared with me is that he kind of has a fear or psychological barrier to committing, which actually happens a lot in his life. Um, and so then I actually asked him, like, okay, how might that translate into how you play the game of TFT? Do you find situations where you are afraid of committing to a line and you want to kind of play more flexibly? Because I have definitely experienced that as well, and that like almost hit the nail on the head for Zantonese, um, Zantonse, sorry. And we started to talk more about the pros and cons of playing too wide and not being able to. Basically become a jack of all trades and a master of none. And if you're playing too wide and you're not playing enough games, then you may have gotten a few reps in on any single comp, but by the time that you are actually getting better at it, the next patch has arrived and that comp may be nerfed, right? So all your learnings get thrown out the window. And so we talked about how to maybe narrow his comp selection while not being a one trick, because he likes to have some novelty and learn new things, right? And this kind of really depends on your own style of play and your own personality. And that's why I think TFT is such an interesting game, because so many different players bring aspects of their personality, and it really shows in how they play and their play style. And so we also talk about, okay, how can we narrow down the comps that he's playing and do more studying outside of the game. This is in line with stuff that I've talked with many of my coaches, TFT coaches in the past on, that most top challenger players would argue that the ideal ratio is to study about 50% and play about 50% if your goal is to get consistently better at the game over time. If you're here to have fun, like, yeah, play whatever it is that will help you have the most fun. But Zantonse was saying that he really wanted to commit to getting better, and so I was suggesting that a very highly effective way to get better is to spend more of his time studying. And so in the coaching session, we also do a kind of a deep dive into ways that I study and approach the game, that is kind of peeling back the layers of the onion to show you how I go about researching and all the stuff I do behind the scenes before I, create a video and push it out to you, where you get to see the fruits of my labor. But there's a lot of, basically how the sausage is made behind the scenes, right? And and Zantonse was saying, like, yeah, when we watch streamers, we just see the kind of end result. It seems like it came easy to them, but a lot of the time you don't see how much research and studying they did behind the scenes. You just see the end result. And that's why for a lot of people it can feel frustrating, or maybe they feel like, oh, I shouldn't be studying because like it seems pointless. But for TFT as well as for life, it's certainly true that most of the time you don't see the hard work. You don't see how much work like LeBron put in behind the scenes. Like Kobe Bryant, one of the best players of all time. Like, I remember a story that I still tell my son, where he would get up at like 4 in the morning and call his trainer and be like, okay, let's go work out, right? And when everybody else is just waking up and going to practice at like 9 a.m., 10 a.m., like he's already finished 2 full workouts. And that's what made him so great. He intentionally put himself into difficult situations so that when game time came, when playoffs come, when the NBA finals are there, like he's ready, he's mentally prepared, right? And so if part of your goal is to get better at the game, I would highly suggest that you spend more time studying. And I hope that by watching this video, you can get a better understanding of how to maybe shift your perspective of the game to not just playing the game, but to the meta layer of what you can do outside of the game, time that you maybe spent on TFT playing, shifting that to both playing and studying and VOD reviewing. Because at least for me, I found that the game got so much more interesting and so much more strategic when I started doing all this stuff outside of the game. And that made the game more fun for me. And part of it is that, yes, the results would eventually follow, that my LP would eventually climb, right? Like I was in set 8 or so, like kind of hard stuck, Diamond Master, like I wasn't able to get to GM. But a big part of my ability to actually get into like the top 100, I've gone to top 25, is shifting my mindset on this front. And if I can do that from a master level, whatever rank you are at right now, I almost guarantee if you shift, if there's 100% of your time is spent playing, if you even shift that to 25% studying, 75% playing, I almost guarantee you do that for like a month, your rank should climb. Like I would be very, very surprised if your rank did not climb, especially if you're hard stuck right now. So with that said, I hope you enjoy this coaching session with Zantonse. It seems like the topics that we talked about, I suspect will resonate with a lot of you. If you have comments, questions, feedback, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments below as well. Enjoy the video and thanks for watching. Before we get started, I want to get your like kind of high level take on what you want to get out of coaching.
Yeah. So I think, so essentially where I've been playing is, I've been playing since like set 2, but I've only been getting up to like master at that point. And then recently I haven't been playing as like, I've been playing a decent amount, but when they switched over to having like the emerald tier and whatnot, I've actually been getting stuck more at Diamond 4 than before. And so I think like with all the augments and the complexities of the game, I feel like everyone's getting better.
Yeah.
I actually need to like update how I think about the game. I think a lot of like my fundamentals are good in terms of like the bit like positioning, some econ management. There's just a lot of decision making that I like need like understanding. And then I watched your video today about like doing all the explorer stuff with Marcel.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't even touch that. So I was thinking like, I don't think there's been enough time in just like one session, but maybe in like a few, just like kind of like reconfiguring some of the ways that I think about the game and learn.
Okay, that sounds good. Where would you like to start?
I think initially I wanted to start just like understanding what is the best, what is the best way that like you've kind of that like got you going from just like hitting like diamond master, but really going to the advanced level, because I feel like I play enough games, but I'm kind of plateaued on like my skill level, and I'm not sure like, and I feel like this is like my whole life is I like don't do the right like enough practice or enough like the stuff behind the scenes of the game to get to that next level.
Yeah, I think for me at least, and I think it's different for everybody, I was hard stuck diamond for a little bit, and then definitely hard stuck masters for much longer, and then set around 8.5 ish, I think was when I started doing coaching. And that's when it really started to shift for me, because up until I started doing coaching, I was just I wasn't playing that much, but kind of like what you're describing, I wasn't actually getting better. I was just spamming games. I was watching some YouTube videos, and like I guess there weren't as many guides back then, but
Hmm.
it was kind of more so following some cookie cutter recipe and not really thinking. And then back then there were augment stats too. So I was just like following what other people were saying was kind of my
Yeah,
recipe. And
yeah, yeah,
so I was making decisions where I didn't really understand why I was doing the things I was doing, other than somebody said, like, I heard somebody say somewhere, like, oh, that's what you should do. And then when I
yeah.
started getting coaching was when I realized I was getting feedback from coaches that were like, oh, well, in this situation, like that thing that you heard from somewhere else doesn't actually make sense because of X, Y, or Z. And so I think it was a combination of getting coaching for me and then realizing there's so much more depth to the game that just kind of blindly following what someone else says in a vacuum without understanding context of the situation is the thing that kind of is getting me hard stuck. So I had to like kind of unravel that blind faith, I guess, or just blind following of what other people were saying.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Because I try to apply the same learning to like everything I do, but honestly, it's like so I play tennis, and I feel like there's a ton of YouTube videos that I watch, and it does help me get better.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel a little stuck, and I think yeah, like getting coaching is the next step, and that's why I was actually wanting to message you like 2 months ago, but I kind of hesitated till now. So
Mm-hmm. Well, it's never too late.
yeah,
I think the
yeah.
other thing I would add to that, if you want to self coach yourself as well, is I put together a video like not that long ago. I forget which one it was. I can try to send you a link, but I put together a video about like just how to get better on your own, which is basically self bod reviewing.
Yeah.
Um, I think one of the challenges is like I even struggle with this. It's like easier for me to just do coaching with someone else because um, I feel like sometimes if I just do it myself, I get stuck. But if like that is part of it is like how much do you care about getting better? Um, and once I started realizing that I could actually get better if I tried, that's what like really clicked for me. And I was like, okay, I should just really commit to trying to get better. And that's where like VOD reviewing both myself and other people started to make a big difference. Which still is challenging for me because I just by default just want to like queue up.
I know. Yeah, yeah. I've done some of my own VOD reviews, but I think some of the problems are just like in that spot. I'm like, oh, well, I made this decision, and I kind of think that's the right decision still. Um, so there's like a few things like I would change in the VOD reviews, but I kind of feel like I'm like, oh, what I know is what I knew at the time when I made that decision.
Right. And that's where like I sent you the video by the way. That's where like if you
Okay.
can get join like a community. I found TFT coaching plus ASUS program pretty helpful. I think he has like a base program too. Um, like they have a Discord community where like sometimes if I'm not sure, I'll just grab a screenshot and the context and then just like post it to the Discord channel and then like people will respond being like, "Oh, have you thought about this or thought about that?" Like I found that to be pretty helpful as well in situations where like I'm not sure how I would make a better decision, but I'm like pretty sure that whatever decision I made was not good.
Yeah, yeah, true, true. Oh, yeah, yeah. I guess there's especially also ones where it's like all three augments seem not viable, and you're like, okay, well, I have to make one of these decisions,
Hmm.
and so that's a good idea about the community review. Okay, okay, so I guess yeah. So is that it? Most like VOD reviews are actually like one of the that and coaching are the two things that really up just your learning.
Yeah. I think the first step was just mentally committing to like not doing what I had been doing. I think that was really the first step, which then led to the coaching and the VOD reviewing. And then also just like spending more time looking at stats or like I think for me it was just doing more learning outside of the game. But I think the first step before even doing those things was just like is this something I really want to get good at? And if so, like I'm gonna do some of the harder stuff or stuff I'm like uncomfortable with rather than just playing games.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's the point I'm at. Like I've always wanted to get better, and I feel like watching all the videos have made me better, but not as not like a like really the like easy getting to masters like I would hope.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think that is more psychological. I've talked to Marcel about this actually. He was a Stanford student. And he actually played a lot of golf. He was considering going pro at one point, and he had a CS professor that um, kind of had a metaphor that really stuck with him, which I definitely resonate with, which is if you feel like you are in some position and then someone else is higher than you, it doesn't actually matter where their current place is relative to you is. So like if you're diamond right now and someone else is master, like that is actually less relevant than what your slope is. Like if you are every day getting a little bit better, you're learning something, whatever that might be. It doesn't matter if you go bot four, or if you go eight, like 5 games in a row. If you at least learn something from those games and you make a commitment to not make those same mistakes, you will eventually outpace the master player who is above you if they are not learning at all and they're just staying flat. Or usually, if you're not learning in the way that the game is set up, like you kind of described initially, you will actually decline in LP because the game is evolving so quickly.
Yes. Yeah, and I feel like even though I am learning, it's not as fast as the game's evolved. And so then
Yeah.
now that's what I'm like, it's kind of passed to me a bit.
Yeah, and like you kind of mentioned, that is actually the trend of the way the world is evolving because of how rapidly technology and AI is evolving. So I think that's not just a skill that's actually valuable for TFT. It's like a really useful life skill, especially in the way the world is today.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. um, yeah, so that's where I think, yeah, that's why I was like, oh, like I think talking to you would be the most ideal because I'm trying to do it for everything,
Hmm.
and so that's I feel like that's where, and like it's kind of the theme of like my most of my life is just like getting to a certain level and then maybe not doing all the pieces that it takes to get to that like past the plateau.
Hmm. What do you think is getting in your way of like making that commitment?
mm, I think part of it's like fear of like, and then because I think part of it's just like practice. I think like actually doing dedicated practice has been, there's like a psychological barrier
Hmm.
to doing it. I'm not sure why, but that I think that's one. I think because I enjoy like learning all the knowledge, but when it comes to like execution, I'm trying to move more of all the learning instead of like 70% learning, 30% execution to doing at least like 50-50.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah. Execution has been my weakness like throughout my life.
I see. If I were to use like a TFT metaphor here, if I were to kind of translate that into gameplay, do you find that you have a harder time committing to a line and want to leave lines flexibly open, or like how does that translate into your style of play? Because I feel like the
No,
way you look at life in general oftentimes kind of reflects a style that you kind of approach TFT with. But maybe that's not true
that's
in this case.
no. It's very true. It's very true. Like one of my buddies, when I first like started getting a master, he was like, "Look, just pick one line, master it, and just like get as high as you can." Like one of the like best meta comps.
Hmm.
Um, and I would do it, and it would work. But I don't know. There's like that's one of the psychological barriers is like just doing the same thing over and over,
Hmm.
even though it's like not really the same thing. So honestly, yeah, I play very flexibly, which does affect when I get lost a good
Yeah.
amount. And I try to like stay to certain lines, but it just keeps switching.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah. Like recently, I've been trying to do Vanguard Marksman, but I don't know. The past like 4 games, it's turned into like Anima Squad, and then it was like Boombot, and I was like,
Mhm.
this isn't Vanguard Marksman.
Yeah, that I've I can definitely relate to that because especially earlier on, I in my coaching or getting coached, I was definitely in the same boat as you. And I don't think it was until I started really doing more deep dives with Marcel that he like identified that as a weakness for me. And so I think part of it too is like how much you want to play the game for fun versus like climbing LP. Because to some extent, I found that if I am like, especially on patches where there's just one dominant comp, like I
Mhm.
cannot play those comps like 95% of the time. Like I would just get bored out of my mind. And so then in that
Yeah.
case, like I'm accepting psychologically, I'm accepting that like, all right, I'd rather have a little bit more fun and have a lower LP here than just like force the broken thing. And like, and that's okay. But you know, I think there's a balance to that too. So it's like, how does that kind of relate for you?
Yeah. No, that's true. That's very true. It's yeah, I mean it relates a lot actually because when there is like a dominant comp and it's really the one you just need to play, I always feel like, oh, let me like try some like B tier comp that I can try to win with, but
Mm-hmm.
it only works when you high roll it.
Yeah. Okay. So that's helpful context. Do you feel like there's more specifics there that would be useful to like dive into now, or like where would you like to go from here?
Um, hmm. I guess maybe we can just do a VOD review. I
Okay.
tried to get two. I've been playing on my phone a lot, so I haven't been able to get one. But I tried to get two, but only one recorded.
Mhm.
Um, and I would say it's an okay one to review. I guess we might as well try it.
Sure.
Only one I have. Okay.
Is this game on from today or this patch?
Yes, from today. How do I? There's a big ad on there. Okay, so I haven't actually bought reviewed in a while, so actually remember how to do this.
Can you change the speed to 2x?
Okay. Um. Okay. So I think like even at the start here in this first one,
Yeah.
um, I'm not sure like what line to go when it comes to like I was given a Senna at the start,
Mm-hmm.
and let me make it bigger. I don't know, is that too big?
No, that's good.
So I was given a Senna at the start, and then the Vanguards, but then also like Bruiser has Slayer on here. So I'm trying to consider what to do.
Yeah.
Um,
So how are you thinking about this meta right now? Like what are the lines that you're comfortable with?
um, so like Vanguard Marksman, um, I can do like I tried a lot of the what's his name Shaco Slayer, but that's been kind of mixed. I guess it's also because I was like doing it for the first time.
Mhm.
And then what else was I doing? I've been doing because it's meta the what's the Spider Girl
Elise?
Elise. I've been trying to do like more Dynamo with like flexible front line.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but actually, and then a lot of Kog'Maw Boombot.
Like Hogma reroll into vertical boombot, or are you talking about like fast 9 ergot boombot? Like
Oh,
Hogma into?
more Kog'Maw reroll.
Okay.
Like trying to see if I can get early commits and like early path to make decision. So then it like streamlines my decision making, or else if I'm too flexible, then I definitely get lost.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So those four
Yeah.
lines are like kind of the ones that you're most comfortable with.
I think so, at least for this patch.
Okay. And would you say like what percentage of your games are those 4 comps, would you say?
Um, maybe like 50%.
Okay.
There's
So
like,
so you end up
yeah,
trying to angle those, but then you, as you kind of mentioned earlier, you might end up somewhere else, like just by circumstance.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. So one thing that Deepay mentioned, I don't know if you saw that video on line selection, he argued that he would suggest to any player to get really good at something around 3 to 4 lines first before you spread out further. And I think his argument would be that he would say the optimal way, if your goal is to climb,
Yeah,
would be to play maybe something like 80 to 90% of your games and limit that to like 4 comps. And the reason for that is, and I think this was very relevant for me when I was kind of switching that mindset, is because when you are playing, let's say 50% of your games are those 4 comps that you just described, but then the rest of the 50% might be like another 4 comps. You're kind of a jack of all trades and a master of none, and you probably are unlikely to know the ins and outs and nuances of what makes each comp tick, which means that I think oftentimes you will end up in spots where maybe you can top 4, but maybe you're kind of in a good spot for it, but you can't actually cap out and win with it because you don't understand why like that comp is good. Um, and so that would be maybe one suggestion, even just like initially, is to narrow down the range of comps that you are playing, at least until you like have gotten a first place with each of them, for example. That way you like know,
okay.
okay, this is what I need to do. This is how Shaco wins, for example. Um, I think that might be a helpful heuristic that can guide kind of your comp selection initially.
That's a good idea because since I hit Emerald, I've been struggling to get first place. It's been a
Mm,
lot of like second to like sixth place.
yeah.
Uh, and I think it's because like I don't know the most top end aspects of the lines.
Yeah. Mhm. And that's where Vodering can actually be really helpful. Meta TFT actually has a VOD library. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. I'll send you a link. Um,
Okay.
but basically, like, let's say you're trying to play Shaco. Let me actually share my screen with
Okay.
you. Okay, can you see this?
Yes.
So let's say you're trying to play Shaco, and then you could say good capped 6 layer board. Like from here, you can go through and look at the games where there were wins to look for common patterns and trends, or even just like click in to see like, okay, how did they play this line? This is actually how I put together my like comp specific analysis around augments. I'll just go to like 5-7, something late in the game, and I'll just pause and like look at what augments they selected, and I'll just do that for a bunch of the games that like people won with. Um, and that way I can very quickly see like, what augments did people pick with Shaco that did well. And then the other thing I'll do is I'll go into like, actually what I prefer to do is just go like Shaco 3 here,
Hmm.
and then go into like builds, and you'll actually see that like QSS in the stats is actually really good. Um, like minus zero
Oh,
point
see, I
0.1.
never actually would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never actually built QSS on him.
And the reason is because Shaco, if you play Shaco right, it's because you win streak early in mid game, and he gets so much AD on him that actually what you care about in the late game is survivability. Like if he gets stunned and he can't attack and heal, that's when he dies. You're actually not worried about more damage, so you actually don't need IE for that reason. Um, so like this build is pretty good. This build is pretty good. Like basically all 3 of these are survivability, right? Like that's why this one here has the highest like place change, or the best negative
So
place change.
So one thing that was I was thinking about as I was playing it was because there's so many removers in the game now. It's like IE is good to like get him going at the very start, and then you could like remover it off and switch him to all like defensive.
Yep.
Uh,
Yeah, so Marcel and I actually did a VOD review of Shaco that Robin played not that long ago. Let's see if I can find it and send it to you. Wait, maybe not that
oh,
one. Well, I did one on Shaco with Asia, but yeah, exactly to your point. Robin was basically slamming any and every item he could. Like, didn't care about these initially, but then eventually wanted to try to build these once Shaco's AD like stacks got really high. So completely agree. You don't care about like greeting for Biss. Like Robin's strategy with playing Shaco is you just slam anything. He was slamming Sunfire. He was slamming like tank item. Like I think yeah, just like whatever will help him survive and get
oh,
kills. And then late game you figure out how to build into this.
oh, that's a good point. I was still only limiting myself to like just offensive items,
Yeah.
but it's true.
And so that goes back to like this VOD library, right? Like you wouldn't necessarily come to that conclusion yourself playing the game, but if you watch some of the top players like play Shaco, you will start if you watch just like 5 of these games, and you could usually go through it pretty quickly on 2x speed. Like you will learn more from spending an hour watching like on 2x speed, jumping through like 5 Shaco VODs than you will learn by playing 5 Shaco games yourself, and that's going to take 5x the time.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually a good point. I think I was intimidated by a lot of the Explorer and but mostly like Explorer stuff. I didn't know about this VOD library.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I was like, oh, there's like too many options to explore, and since I was like, I don't know what I'm going to play in the game anyway to see like whatever comes to me. So then I was like, how do I even prepare when I'm just like, there's so many lines to go.
Yeah, so that's where like if you narrow it down to like let's go into Kog'Maw. Like if you know you're gonna say like I'm gonna play Shaco reroll, I'm gonna play Kog'Maw reroll, Elise, and Vanguard Marksman. If you just narrow those down, like that's basically my approach, right? Like I create a document where I just do this research ahead of time so that I know like okay, this is how to itemize Kog'Maw. Like right now, Shojin Kraken double Kraken's extremely strong with Kog'Maw. Um, and like Flicker Blade's extremely strong. And then you can figure out like comps here. Like, okay, these are the comps that you kind of build into. And you can even do like level 9 here to see like how do people cap out this board. But it's basically pretty straightforward, right? And you can even see like how important is +1 like emblems here. And then this is also the way I like go into like what are good artifacts for this line, what are good support items. Like more frontline makes sense, right? Randuin's in Locket because he wants to scale. Like what's the best Radiant? So I actually didn't know that Radiant Kraken's better than Radiant Rageblade on this build. So if you get a Radiant refactor, like, and that's why like I basically do all, and it's pretty straightforward. All you need to do is go here and click Kog'Maw 3, right? And then you get all this information. And if you do that before you play the games, and that's why DPay said spend a little bit of time outside of the game, limit it to 4 comps. If you just do this little bit of research ahead of the game, then when you get into the game, you'll be far better equipped in the moment on the fly when you're like trying to make a decision.
Okay. Yeah, that okay, this makes a lot of sense. Okay, I can definitely do this. It feels a lot less overwhelming compared to before.
And then so same thing with like Elise. It doesn't have to be Elise 3-star, right? You just say Elise 3 items, be 2+, like, and you can say, okay, what's good with Elise? Yeah, like blue buff Archangel, blue buff Gunblade, JG is very good, right? So pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
You can see what artifacts good. So Zonya's very good, and that this can also tell you that the the Dynamo augment. I forget what it was called. The one that,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, that one's good. And you could basically
I
hard
see.
force this comp if you see that.
Okay. Oh, that's a good point. So I think that's one thing that's added to the complexity of the game. I mean, it's more fun, but the augments, I don't know if I'm choosing the right augments.
Hmm.
Right, like obviously, like the augment stats got taken down, and I think like knowing, I think it's like okay, knowing to choose like an econ augment at the time, like one of the like combat ones or like an item based one. It's like how do you make those kind of decisions?
So usually what I will do is I'll look at like TFT Academy, and then I'll also look at are you familiar with Title? He and Dish Soap have won Worlds twice.
Oh,
But he
okay,
has a website now, and it's in Japanese, but you can translate it.
okay,
And
cool.
like he doesn't have all the comps for this patch because he's been doing, but he does have at least here, right? So he has a bunch of augments listed here, and then I'll go to like this, and I'll look at the augments that Frodan and Digital put together, and then I'll go to the VOD library, and I'll go to Elise. I could do Forge Dynamo, and then I'll just click into the games and jump to the sections like for games that were like top fours, right? So I could like go to this one, or this one was a win.
The MF Zeri. I drop this, drop this.
Oops.
Hmm.
So then I could say, okay, got component anvil, crown guarded, and LDP. Like, actually, it doesn't even look like this is that great, but if he had an Archangel staff, LDP seemed like it would actually be pretty good here.
Mm,
But it's more so that I would look at a bunch of games and I would look for patterns and like kind of see like, okay, uh, Title agrees with Rodan and Dish Soap in these ways, right? Like I think this is calculated enhancement. Yeah, like they
yeah,
both put that here, right? So therefore it is very likely to be good. But then I'll like kind of double check, like, well, why is it good? And it's because
yeah,
this comp is like a four frontline kind of and four backline at least in at level 8, right? And so you have exactly four backline. They have a ton of mana, and this gives you exactly what they need, which is just more AP and AD, and you have mixed damage sources, so it's actually perfect because MF benefits from it too. Um, and so
Oh, I see.
from that, I can like basically write down on my notes page, like, okay, this is really good for this comp. So when I see it, then I'm like, okay, I'm gonna instant click it basically, or I know that I should roll the other ones.
Hmm. Okay. Oh, that's super helpful. It actually even gives you augment priority on here just
Mm-hmm.
because of yeah, understanding how the line works. I see. Yeah. So even in this, I mean, it's kind of like your commitment video. It's like you committing early, aka like even before the game starts,
Yeah,
gives you a lot more
that
knowledge to
was the
prepare.
big insight I got from talking to all these challenger coaches. Is like, yeah, a lot of the top players make everything look easy on stream, but most people have no idea how much time they're spending outside of the game. And almost every challenger coach that I've talked to say that the ideal amount of time that you spend thinking and playing TFT and studying TFT should be closer to 50-50 than like majority playing. And like, I think the vast majority of players, that's just not true.
Yeah, no, that's true. I mean, I was watching like Twitch streams before, and that helped a lot. But I feel like that's very time intensive.
Yeah.
Versus like this, you can kind of like cherry pick all your own, like
Yeah,
information that you want
that's
to
like the
mess with.
beauty of this VOD library is you can like really quickly go through stuff and jump around.
Hmm.
They even
Okay.
have a replay library that you can get access to games that are not streamed. So these games are top challenger players like that are not streaming, or they might be streaming, but you can actually click in and it'll open the game client and you can watch those games too.
Oh wow. Oh, is it actually using like spectator mode?
Yeah, like Dish Soap, I don't know if he streamed this, but you can actually go in and watch, and you can like click around in the game as if you're an observer.
Oh wow. Crazy. Is this a new feature?
I think they launched this feature like within the last 3 months.
Okay, yeah, that's pretty new.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay, well, that's pretty. I feel like I was like, oh, I just need to try this out.
Yeah. So if we go back to your game, what I would say is, let's say you actually spent 2 to 3 hours researching 4 comps that you want to get really good at, and you at least have a high level understanding of the itemization, the augments, like how important is econ versus items versus combat. Then in this spot right here, you would have a much better ability to determine like, okay, which units you should hold and why, right? Like let's say a tier was dropped, well then I would be far more willing to sell the Senna to like play the like Dynamo Flex line, right? Whereas if you have Bow dropped, then I might be willing to sell the Morgana, and like play the Kog'Maw line if that's what you're familiar with. Or let's say you have a bunch of Shakos and you have like some slammable items, then I'd be more willing to keep the Senna. But without the understanding of like what are the lines that you are comfortable and know at least at a reasonably deep level, it can be very hard in this spot to like determine, oh, what should I do?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. I think because like when I thought of just like a lot of people, you watch these these like YouTubes where people are just like one tricking all the way up to like challenger,
Mm-hmm.
but then I have so much like internal resistance to one tricking. Like I try hard to do, but then I'm like I can't do it in the game itself. I think having like 3 to 4 still gives you at least like flexibility
Yeah.
as compared to like a one trick.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. Okay.
So you want to keep doing the VOD, or we can definitely keep talking about this like more macro level as well.
What other macro stuff would there be?
So here, maybe I can share with you my other screen.
Yeah, because I think now I'm like that, it's all super helpful, and then now I'm like, wait, I don't even know what other macro stuff there would be.
Yeah, can you see my Roam page?
Yes.
Okay, so what I'll usually do at the start of each patch, this is just for myself, is I do a break, and actually did this with Marcel. I'll create like kind of a tier list of what I think is good, and I think for you, I would just start with like 4. Like I've done deep dives into like all of these, but I think you just build them up incrementally, right? You start with like 4, and then once you feel like you've mastered them, you add another one, then you add another one, then you add another one, and then from once we like know what the tier list is, then what I actually do is I'll just go to tactics.tools and create a 1 cost tier list. So I'll just click all of these, and then based off of the 4 comps I want to angle towards. So let's say we go back to actually let me switch my screen again to
Okay.
can you see the team builder?
No.
Um, okay, how about now?
Okay. Yeah.
All right, so let's say you said what, Shaco, Kog'Maw, Vanguard Marksman, right? And what was the last one? Like Elise Dynamo
Elise.
Flex, right? So I would first like maybe do a bunch of research into these, and then I would from there. I'm just gonna use this as a reference point. I'm gonna create my 1 cost tier list here, so I'll click all of these. And then from this, I would say, okay, well, Shaco is going to be S tier because it's one of the 4 comps I know. Mundo is going to be S tier, or like maybe A tier. I'm just going to say this row is S tier, A, B, C.
Okay.
And then like Mundo is kind of, if I have Shakos, then I'll hold Shaco, right?
Yeah.
Aphelios and Elise and Kog'Maw can all be good with Vanguard frontline, right? So then I'll be like, okay, Silas and Vi are S tier according to like the comps that I want to play.
Hmm.
From that, Kog'Maw's on my S, like my comp list, so Kog'Maw's S tier for me. And then because Kog'Maw's
So-
good, I'll throw Kindred up here because if I have Kog'Maw's, I want Kindred.
That's true.
And then the rest of these are like kind of like not real, not non-picks. Like maybe Alistar
Oh.
if I have Mundo, and then these are like I just don't buy them.
I guess would you say Morgana because it's Elise?
Oh
Dynamo?
yeah, you're right. So yeah, Morgana is very good. So like my tier list is Kog'Maw and Morgana at S tier with Vi. But that's because
Okay.
I have a much broader like set of comps that I'm comfortable with, right? But this goes back to the whole point I was making earlier in the conversation around like if I am blindly following someone else's tier list, but I don't know how to play those units into the comps that a top streamer would play, well, that tier list is kind of not very useful for me, right? So that's why I'm saying like ideally you come up with your own research of the comps that you feel comfortable with and understand really well in depth how to play. Then you create your own tier list of what's good that plays into those. So then from here, basically I could say these are all like no good. So this is your 1 cost tier list, right? And then you can create your 2 cost tier list, and then your 3 cost tier list, and kind of go from there.
Oh, cool. Huh.
And then if we go
Okay.
back to your question about this VOD, where you're in the starting position, it's like, well, Senna doesn't really play into any of these lines, right? Except for Shaco. But even if you're playing Senna, like you would want to have 4 Slayer for that to occur, and you probably only want to hold Senna if you already had a bunch of Shakos.
Yes.
Yeah.
So because in that case, I had 2 Mundos and a Senna, no Shakos. Then I guess in my head I was thinking I could like hold the Senna, use the Senna as a Slayer instead. But then I also had Silas and Vi, so I guess honestly I could have gone other directions just as easily.
Yeah, and that goes back to understanding each comp really well. If you want to play Shaco, I would argue that you should have at least 2 to 3 Shakos on 2-1 and have a slammable item so that Shaco can start killing units. Like if you're using Senna as an item holder for Shaco and you get Shaco in, like a Shaco 2 in at 3-1, like you're already late to the game.
That's true. That's true. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, yeah, so that definitely does help with like decision making.
Yeah, and then I think from this tier list, then I would also like kind of have a separate like kind of analysis around like, okay, if I have a tier, which units am I willing to hold? And then it would be more so Morgana and like frontline basically, right? So then in that case, I might be willing to hold Poppy and Jax. Or like kind of we talked about how Elise can be very flexible, right? Then you just like if you have a pair of Morganas or even you hit Morgana too, then I'm just like, and I have a tier, I'll just hold any frontline. I'll sell all the other backlines and just buy any frontline.
Yeah.
Whereas if I have a like a sword or glove or like damage items, then I'm like, okay, I really want to hold the Shakos and I'm gonna sell the Morgana because even if I have a pair of Morganas but no tiers, like I can't really play or no rods, like I can't really play towards Morgana. That unit's just not going to be as good. So then I'm going to sell Morgana and the other frontliners to try to hold more of these to angle more like Aphelios or Shaco or Kog'Maw.
I see. So in which case, because like for example, like people who like one trick, right? Say for example, you start off the game with like sword and glove, but you are trying to one trick, like Morgana, like Elise or something.
Mm-hmm.
Do you just go a full lost streak build until you start building the right items?
If that were your goal, yeah, I think that's how most people would do it. It's not necessarily going to be optimal, but the one benefit of one tricking is you will understand the ins and outs of that comp extremely well. But yes, you especially if you're trying to play towards a very contested item component like tier, and you don't have that tier, you basically have to lose streak. So even if you were even if you had a Morgana 2, I would consider not even building it, or I would like solo frontline the Morg 2. like to lose on purpose, so that you can get this tier.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. I think what would happen is I would not value the item priority still, and then if I want to, I say like I streak like 3 streak, then I would be like, oh well, I should like start. I play a lot of tempo if I like streak, and I like my most fun play line is like high tempo if I can. But then the problem is I do my boards sometimes like cap out early because I don't have the optimal items.
Yeah, so that's where like going back to the research, if you understand the items, then you know which items you can slam that like don't negatively impact your cap as much.
Okay. Okay, I see.
And actually on that front, like Elise is actually pretty viable to tempo with, because if you get to 4 Dynamo, you don't actually need to have tier items on Elise. But if you're playing Morgana reroll with Poppy and Jax, you do need to have blue buff. So it's like that's also like kind of a stat check, like just looking at the stats.
Okay. Yeah. That's true. That's true. I think. Okay. Yeah. There's always like small niche exceptions, just like knowing the line. Okay. Yeah. Actually, this does help a lot. I should definitely build more of this out. Okay. This makes a lot of sense. Like you actually do a lot of like preparation work, not just like studying, but actually like creating like documents and such.
Yeah, which is why I like create YouTube videos, right? Like the YouTube videos to me is actually just another way of doing prep work. It's like if I'm gonna teach this material, then I will understand it better. And because I am already doing the research to like create this stuff, I'm just like, okay, might as well do it. Can you see my Rome research again?
No.
Let's see. Okay, here. Can you see this now? Yeah, so I have like all these tier lists. And then like, for example, I have like an Elise Dynamo page, or that's a Dynamo.
What is this app you're using?
It's called Rome Research.
Rome Research.
It allows you to very easily like link stuff together and like create docs. But basically, I just have anytime I have a new comp, I have like a template, and I just fill in the blanks for these things. And then the way I fill it in is exactly what I described to you earlier. So then I can go into like what is the board early, what is it at level 8, and I make this public too, so you can even just use this yourself if you want.
Okay.
I have a link in my videos to like all my notes, so you could just use this if your 4 things, it's like Shaco whatever, you could just like look at my research if you want. Like I'll show show the items, and like these are the artifacts and artifact combos for Shaco. This is actually not updated, so one of the downsides is I don't always update this stuff, so like whenever there's a new patch, like it might go stale.
I mean, and for the most part, it's not like things do change a lot, but at least some of the basics are still there.
Yeah, or like Vanguard's Marksman, I have somewhere. Yeah, so and then whenever I hear like coaches make some commentary or on a stream, like say like, oh, this has a low cap and blah blah blah, I'll just add the commentary here.
Okay. Is wait, when you make that that board right there, is there any difference between the levels, like the first, third, fourth?
Which one?
I guess like what is the top left, I guess, just like items, and then the middle is
this stuff?
Secondary items? Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is just like backup items, and also like artifacts that are good, emblems.
Oh, okay.
Support items. So this is like kind of just like a default board, and this is also not updated. I think Kraken's is, I think it's like Rageblade, Gunblade, Kraken's is like this now, but at the same time, like a lot of times, like greeting Biss is overrated, unless you're like reroll is much more important to greet Biss, because you're deploying so much more gold into like 1 or 2 units.
I see. I see. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Huh.
Yep.
Yeah, because then it usually like reroll has like a lower cap, right?
It depends on the board.
On the reroll.
So another way that I'll try to get a proxy for that is, you know what? Can I just share my entire screen? Yeah, I can just share my entire. Okay. The way I try to figure out how low or high of a cap reroll has is go here. Tactics.tools units, list, and then 3-star rate. And like kind of basically AVP. And then kind of like from there, you can kind of see win rate related to that. So for example, Shaco here, 4.27, like on par with Poppy and Morgana, but the win rate is significantly lower than Poppy and Morgana, right? So
Yeah.
from that, you can tell that Shaco is more of a top 4 play and less of a win out play. You can still win out, but if you were to look, and you can kind of confirm that by like looking at the replay library here and be like, okay, well, how many wins do I see here? Like
Oh.
two wins here. Whereas if I like filter Morgana, Poppy, like 6 Bastion, like okay, 1, 2, 3, like there's definitely more wins here, right?
Interesting.
Yeah, so like that even just brief search took me like 2 minutes to figure out like, okay, well, if I'm comparing Shaco versus Morgana, like, well, which one can I try to win with?
Huh. Okay. I know. So, but I guess. Oh yeah, it's never mind. It is patch based, so where it shows it. I guess I find it interesting that Poppy and Vega are top because I don't see them that often, and especially like I guess Poppy's only there with Viger, so then I don't.
So this tells you play rate. So Poppy definitely has the highest play rate. This 3-star rate is of the times that they are played, what percentage of the time are they 3-starred? But yeah, Poppy, I would say, I think most of the time is going to be played with Morgana. And we can actually like look at the Explorer for this too. We could just go Poppy 3-star and then go into units here. And like if you want to compare Morgana versus Veigar, like Morgana's played nearly 3 times as much as Veigar, right? But if you wanted to see what comp Veigar is played with Poppy on, then you can click into Veigar like this. So it just adds here, and then you can go to comps. And I believe it's actually a Nitro. Let's go level 9. Okay, Cyber Boss, and there should be a Nitro line as well. Okay, Nitro here. This Nitro line actually, Appies was talking about. Averages 2.07 with 36% win rate. I've been trying to experiment with it too.
Oh wow. Huh. Interesting. Yeah, that's not even a line I would have considered at all.
Yeah, this one's like, it's not a meta line. I think it's like a fringe line that Appies is experimenting with that some top challenger players are like, interesting.
Huh. Okay. Yeah, I feel like that's what's interesting is some people find like those like niche lines like Graves, and then it just like explodes and becomes like a meta line.
Yeah. Yeah. So part of it is too, like, is how much do you want to experiment? And if that's how you enjoy playing the game, then by all means do that, right? Like, and I think there can be a balance between the two as well, right? Like you can try out some lines that aren't as meta and experiment with those, but I would suggest like trying to narrow down your range of comps to like a 3 or 4 so that you can get better at those and then like expand from there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes a lot more sense actually. Okay. I'm trying to think what else I wanted to learn. I mean, this is actually pretty yeah, I think that's a lot of what I'm missing is like, yes, it's like fun, but then like with the amount of games I'm playing, I was like, oh, at this point I should be also playing to get better, not just playing for fun.
And winning
Hmm.
is fun too.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
the challenge is making sure you understand causation, which is forcing games now will not necessarily cause you to win more, but studying more now will also not necessarily cause you to win more right now, but studying more now will very likely lead you to win more later. So you kind of have to view studying now as like the equivalent of picking forward thinking on 3-2, right? Like when you take forward thinking, you're basically expecting to sack stage 3. And so if you're spending a lot more time studying instead of playing the game, like you're kind of sacking some of your the next 10 or 20 games you're playing, but you assume that you should get a very high return on sacking the current games that you're playing because you're trying to more so approach your games from like a study and research perspective and experimentations perspective. But you should be able to see down the line the returns on that studying should be like way more impactful than just spamming games.
Mm. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I see. I definitely need to try this and just practice. Because I think like I spam games. I try to learn from each one, but it's hard to pick up all of the learnings that you can get when you're doing a different line every game.
Yeah, that was my problem too. It's like, okay, you learn this one thing for Shaco reroll, and then you're playing 9 other lines before you get back to Shaco, and then maybe you play Shaco 3 times in a patch, and then the next patch came and Shaco was nerfed. Right? It's like
Yeah.
at that point, you're the approach of learning Shaco is actually not very efficient.
Okay, that's a good point. Actually, yeah. So this is a different question, like, about the augment. So you mentioned like forward thinking, and then those like golemify augments on 3-2. I'm not sure how to use those correctly, but I skip them every single time.
Yeah, so one way I look at augments is just like go to tier lists. I think TFT Academy has one, Meta TFT has one, and I'll just like
Okay.
kind
Oh,
of
I didn't.
cross reference. I'll like look at what multiple people have said about like what's good, and then if let's say I don't know where did this soap put Dilemify. Okay, A tier, and I don't think he put forward thinking here, but um, yeah, if you're not sure how to play those, the best way I would suggest is to find games where someone played the game, which is tough because you can't actually see it. You can't search for it anymore. You can't. Um, so I think part of that is hopefully just watching more streams and coming across it and hearing commentary on what streamers say. But if you look at Golemify, the way it's set up is lose all champions on your board and bench, gain a golem with 60% of their combined HP and AD. So first off, you're losing a ton of gold when you take this. And so it's going to be better on encounters where you have more gold. So if you're on Gold Sub, you're on Scuttle Puddle, like if you see this on those encounters, I'd be far more willing to take it. The other thing is, and I mentioned this in my tips video yesterday. They actually mentioned this in the tips section here. Oh, they don't let you. Okay, maybe there's augment. Is there Glemify here? Here. It says if it doesn't affect interest, you can fill your bench at 3-1, which makes Glemify really powerful, especially if you have. So you want to put in Bruiser and Street Demon onto your board because it will actually take the buffed Bruiser stats from the board. So it's especially good if you have Bruiser and Street Demon and you're on an encounter that has a lot of gold. Because if that is the situation and you aren't even losing that much interest to fill your bench at 3-1, you can basically full streak stage 3 and early stage 4 with a golem and like just figure out any random units to like put in. Usually what you do is you pick the golem on 3-2, you level to 6, and then buy all the units, and then just put in the units and figure out how to go from there, because that single golem can just like streak you the whole stage.
So at 3-1, you just buy, up until like your interest level, you just buy it out just in case you get Golemify.
Yeah. That's how broken it is, but only on encounters where you have extra gold. Because the other thing is, if you're contested, like let's say you're trying to play Vanguard Marksman, it is very good on that line, but if you're contested 3 ways, by taking this, you will likely be unable to hit your 2 stars. So that's another consideration.
Interesting, because you lose.
Because you have to like all of your gold that you've invested in units, which could be like, I don't know, 20 gold in value.
Oh, I see.
But if you're uncontested, then it's great. Like you may hit your units a little bit later, but that's fine, because you're most likely going to be really healthy, and if you're already uncontested, like you hit your forecast like 2 or 3 rounds later, like that's totally fine.
Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, yeah, because it's a new one, and also that wasn't forward thinking. I was just like, how do you use these kind of like niche augments well?
Yeah, I gotta wrap up soon, but I can kind of just cover these two, and then maybe we can. The other comment I would have about Golemify, I made a video about this too, is late game, if you have Renekton eat the golem, it's like an insane combo.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because it gets, I forget, 40% of the golem's health and AD, which is insane. And then forward thinking is really good if you are playing a win out comp, because you are pretty much, like I mentioned earlier, going to sacrifice your stage 3.
Yeah.
So you can kind of think of this as Cypher, but like it's going to give you a ton of gold. And so if you're going to use forward thinking into something like, let's say, Vanguard Marksman, which I had notes for, that was like, well, the cap on this is not that high, right? You can go to like comps page and be like, where's Vanguard Marksman? Here. Win rate, very low, right? 8% compared to Strat Amp or even Anima Squad, right? If you're going to go forward thinking into a low win rate comp, you're setting yourself up for failure, because you're going to be low HP. Even if you hit your whole board, someone else that high roll can just kill you. The same logic applies to playing Cypher, right? Like if you're playing Cypher, you need to cash out and pivot your board into something that can have a high probability of winning out. So you don't want to pick this. You don't really want to pick this. I mean, you're not going to pick this as a reroll line, but like, I mean, even this line, like, whereas like Fast 9 Urgot would be good, Strat Amp would be good, especially if you combine this with an econ portal, or if you went double econ, like on 2-1 you had another econ augment, or you're playing on Scuttle Puddle or Gold Sub. With the combination of 2 econ sources like that, you can go straight level 9 on 4-2. And that's the situation where you can play like this Strat Amp on level 9.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay, yeah. I see. I actually need to look at this piece here of like the win rates.
Yeah.
Because I didn't even think about that. Like the win rate actually like is how good the comp is at winning out.
Mm-hmm. And the inverse, like if you look at Meta TFT has like win share, so what percentage of games are won, like, and you can filter by your elo level, right? Like if you go higher, I think Gox wins out less, 16.9. Yeah, like because top challenger players just oftentimes won't let will kill off the Gox players before they hit escape velocity.
Oh yeah.
But you go to Diamond, and you go to win share, you can see like, okay, these are at my elo, like the comps that are going to win the most, whereas these are the comps that are going to get top 4 more. And so you saw that Vanguard Aphelios did not, was like 7th on the win share, but is actually 2nd on the top 4 share, right? So this is a great top 4 comp if you want to be consistently climbing, but not so good at winning out. So you would not want to angle that if you're playing Cypher or forward thinking.
Yeah, I see. Okay. Okay, so I'm definitely gonna do. I'm gonna pick a few comps, just like get to know those really well. When it comes to like getting more advanced, you know, like you going from like master to challenger, is it just knowing more comps so you're just top 4ing even more than normal? It's like, what is that next tier after that?
I think from master to GM is you could get to. I mean, you can get to low challenger by just understanding like 4 meta lines really well. And like one way of doing that is just go to meta TFT here, sort by top 4 share, and just pick these 4. Like if you got really, really good at these 4, maybe like 5, these 5, like, and you really understood the ins and outs in all of these, you could probably get to GM definitely, and even challenger. I think once you're trying to go from low challenger to high challenger, that's where like understanding like when to play certain spots of the rest of it is where you get like a much bigger edge.
Oh, I see. Okay. Oh, I mean, I get it. Yeah. So for the most part, low challenger is just mastery of good comps.
Yeah, which is why like I think Beppo is notorious for one tricking. Like he just one tricks strat amp to challenger. Like I think pretty much all his games are strat amp.
Oh, well. Oh, interesting. Just like searching through Google.
Right. Well, now he's been experimenting with other stuff, but actually the other way you could do it is put a leaderboard here, and NA, and this will. Where is it? This,
oh wow.
This tells you how flexible they are. So like, Speckle. Oh, he like fell out the top. Okay, here. So he's red here. Low flexibility. 59% chance to play the same units, right? Like he's like the only one here. So like not very many. I mean, I think he's the only one that's that red, right? Like at Challenger right now.
Yeah.
So it's possible. It's not very common.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think definitely like let's say we go to GM. Like you see more red here, right? Like this guy, what is this guy playing? This guy's playing a lot of Graves, right? This guy's playing 40% Zaya, right? Like, you know, you just said you're playing 50% of your games are 4 of those comps, right? These guys are playing. This guy's playing like Fast 9 Zac and Aurora, like in 75% of his games.
Okay. Yeah, that is. Okay. Yeah, I see now. I guess I figured even though I was one tricking, I didn't know what info, like how to like really like make it effective. I was like, I'm just gonna like keep playing games, but I see there's a lot more info now to leverage, and that's actually how to like, you know, do a few comps. It'd still be fun, and you're learning a lot per game.
Yeah, and I think that for me is like, yeah, pick a comp. You can one trick that comp until you feel comfortable with it. Maybe until you actually win a game with it. If it's supposed to have a high win rate, like if you go back to the comps page, like, I mean, you should be able to win with Vanguard Marksman as well. Like if you play it enough, 8% doesn't mean you can never win with it. But if you are playing like Strat Amp or even like Anima Squad, like I would play it until you win with it. Then when you've won with like the 4, let's say you start with 2 comps, maybe you're just picking these 2, right? Play them until you win, and then and then maybe start adding a third comp. Play that until you win with it, then add a fourth comp, right? Like, and that way you're not really getting bored. You can still kind of reasonably play flexibly.
Yeah.
You're kind of building up your knowledge set more incrementally in a way that is going to be more consistent than if you're playing, Shaco 3 times in a patch, and then like your learnings, you never really fully learned it, and then that comp is actually no longer good the next patch.
Okay. Yeah. No, this has been super helpful.
Mm-hmm. All right, I
Yeah,
gotta wrap up. Any like kind of final question or comment like before we conclude?
No, I think this is good. This is it's what I needed.
Awesome.
So
I'm glad it was helpful.
yeah. All right. Yeah. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Do I just like Venmo you?
Yeah, Venmo's good. I'll send you the info on Discord.
Cool. All right. And then you're out till the 16th.
Yeah, so we can, if you want to do another one the week of the 16th, we can just chat on Discord and schedule there.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
All right.
All right.
Hope this is
Yeah.
helpful, and good luck with experimenting with this new approach to the game. Hope you're able to enjoy the game more and also learn more as a result of that.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I think once it gets to a higher level, then I can have. I think like it's not as much fun just like bouncing around at this point.
Yeah, I feel you on that. All right, cool.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Yeah. Bye.